any adjustments to the minutes, by the way?
They looked fine to me.
Yeah, they looked
I
good to
just
me.
read them this afternoon.
Okay. Very good. Did we approve the minutes from December 2nd? Those who were present?
So moved.
Moved in second by Barbara and Susan. All those in favor of accepting the minutes? Thank you very much, Bob. Yep. And Max and I haven't had much correspondence just of late. I've been in the South, and I went to the South just in time for a 50-year ice storm. Perfect. I felt like I hadn't left. And it's interesting, John Daigle, Public Works, we get a big kick out of this. We were in the Isle of Palms. The storm hit Monday. I saw my first snowplow Saturday,
Wow.
completely unprepared.
I counted 16 of them on the road between here and Damascus this morning.
16.
Wow.
Your story is ironic. I think it's Groundhog's Day.
What's that?
Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
my gosh.
it's hot shadow yesterday or whatever.
So with our minutes approved, Max and I had only the least correspondence here, but I know that he may or may not have a great deal to inform us this evening, but I think the survey results are something we're all very interested in. If you have any update on summary of the survey results.
I do not have any updates whatsoever from the town side.
You meant what you said.
I meant what I said.
But the minutes just reminded me, I don't really remember you talking about why none of the names that were submitted aren't players, the naming the park. Why
The
that
process was not.
the process, the
was the
school
issue.
kid thing. So we don't have a name for the
No,
site.
no. There was an attempt to try and get it done in November. It fell through. There was some timing communication issues, and so that's why the school didn't end up voting on it.
But they didn't vote at all. Okay.
Well, I just wonder if we can just come up with a name.
Or
Well,
I
hold
don't
on.
even know what they were voting on.
Can we make another try? I
Yeah.
mean, are they adamant against doing it or are they just?
We can. It's just that was the problem. We just didn't have some good timing with the
It's not
school.
election day, but.
Yeah, and we could just try it again. And the names were picked by the Historical Society. I don't know the names right off the top of my head. I'm
Mhm.
trying to figure out what's going on with the YouTube streaming. It's not working right now.
Oh,
So it's just a recording I'll upload later.
Be good to get those names
I
though.
believe they were narrowed down to 4 by the select board. Madomic River Community Park, Waldeboro Community Park, East Bank Park, Governor's Park. That's what came up at a select board meeting. Is that correct?
Sounds good to me. I don't.
Okay.
Okay, I hadn't heard that.
I don't recall.
I will also add that
You look for it.
one of the big park renovations in, I believe, Colorado, and I have an article on it. They literally waited until the park was finished.
Yeah.
And then started the process of naming it because they wanted people to experience and
Get
take
excited.
ownership of it.
Yeah.
So just
Makes sense.
throwing that out there.
Well, right, just to remind people that when we started gathering names for the park, it was tied to the survey of what people wanted to see in the park.
Right.
So we tried to tie the questions together
Yeah.
for the very reason that
Yeah.
you suggest, which is why I think it's important to know more about the survey results. And I know that Julie was happy to receive the responses she did, but wanted a higher number. But as far as I hear, no one's seen any review of the results, correct? So I guess that's a Julie question. But it makes sense to me that the ongoing components of the park at least be tied into a discussion of its name because it has to do with the overall meaning of the park.
And we also, the whole perspective you bring was not one of the ones we put on the table when we talked about potential ways to use it. So that's still evolving.
Tell us, Max, what is the process to get us to a place where we can actually have a summary report on the survey results? Do we have some to discuss?
I'll talk with Julie about that when she comes in.
I don't know enough about Survey Monkey. Is that something that's generally available? Who wants to look at the results?
It's
Or-
usually. pretty-
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know what kind of data it generates
It's very
behind the
easy.
scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, if that,
Yeah, there's usually some charts and everything.
yeah. We just had that.
Yeah.
that was shared to be easy
Yeah.
to look at.
Is the link still up to the questionnaire?
I believe it's all still accessible, yeah.
I mean, is this the survey
Maybe
result?
one of us
Is
who's
it the survey
computer
result?
savvy can look it up and see what people said.
Don't look at this end.
I think we have the link to take the survey. I don't know.
Well, it gives you a link to Survey Monkey, and
Oh,
I
it
assume that
does.
you could,
Oh, yeah, it's.
Well,
I assume you could navigate.
Just out of curiosity, when you're talking survey results, are we talking about Bob showing me like the recreational activities and infrastructure you'd like to see at the park? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's like
So we can
some
go
pie
on.
charts and everything, if that's what we're talking about, or bar charts. I
What's the
think
total?
it's something that we just have to get from Julie.
What's the total N responses?
I don't know that.
Should be
I
on
honestly
there.
did not.
Yeah.
Well, this is
Total
from,
respondents were 139.
Was this
this was
the
back
old
in
one?
October. This is back in
I think
October.
this is the old.
The old one. Yes,
Oh,
right.
pre-election.
There were some additional responses, but not that many more.
Okay.
So for, if I may, as an action item for March, we could expect to look for the analytics on results to date, including posts, anything since October.
Yep.
Yeah, very good. And what then is also our sense of the naming process?
I mean, Bob's suggestion was try again with the school.
I love the suggestion of waiting until we're done with it.
Hmm.
So people can get a feel for
I
what's
do
going
too.
on and
Yeah.
what they've got and.
I think the reason we really wanted to have the naming done this time in November was because it was lining up with the general election. It was gonna get the school kids involved.
That was really the only reason.
That was really to
That's
just line it
right.
up with the general
Yeah, I
election.
like your
It's
idea
a
too.
small item, really.
And with that disconnect, we can really simply put this off until the next opportunity to discuss with the school district.
Right.
And rejuvenate that and then have a recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. We were very interested, of course, in whether DEP was going to give us a written response to our suggestions about site soil disturbance and development. Do we have anything in writing at
The
all?
only thing I have from them was saying that if we are digging up soil, we gotta keep the soil on the property. If we're bringing soil into the property, we need to test that soil before bringing it in.
Uh-huh.
That's where the soil disturbance kind of ends.
If we're bringing it in, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So
Said
if we're
what?
bringing in soil from outside Sylvania, it has to be tested.
It has to be what?
Tested.
Tested?
Outside soil has to be tested.
And
Okay.
if we're gonna dig up any soil at Sylvania, we have to keep it on Sylvania. It doesn't have to be the same spot. It could be moved to a different spot, but we can't dig up and remove soil from Sylvania. It all has to stay in that one
Mhm.
parcel.
Yeah.
Does that have to be tested or no? Just can get moved?
I would still
Probably not.
test it, but they did not say we had to test it.
Okay.
Do you have to test the source of the soil you bring in, just one test, or do you have to test every single load that you bring in?
I think it was.
Is this a new thing because of PFAS kind of issues? Is
No,
that the
I think
DEP?
I think, no, the reason they want that is because because right now they have the state of Sylvania right now. And if we're bringing on soil that's contaminated, we're bringing on contaminated soil. And so Leadvance now has their way out. Whereas if we bring on soil that's nice, good, clean, dirty soil, they can't really cling to that.
Okay.
Does the town's the existing borrow site upcountry for their fill material, graded fill material, does that already have some sort of approval?
It's been tested,
Yeah,
but I don't know what their test would be.
okay,
But we've been able to put it on the roadside, so.
right. It probably is about as clean a material as you're gonna find because we're spreading it over tens upon tens of miles of roadside after asphalt work and shoulder restoration. So there may be a body of testing there that we should submit, well, we're
I
getting
think
ahead of
we'll,
ourselves.
I think we'll just,
Probably,
at the time, ask what they want.
very good. And they didn't express any particular concern about the scale of soil disturbance, just that whatever soil disturbance happened.
As long as it's outside the restricted area.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Carl, can we back up and, now that Julie's here and ask about Survey Monkey?
Yeah. we were having a chat about the Survey Monkey analytics, you know, what kind of information we got since the election. And if there was a way for us to use that information moving forward.
Well, did I share? I don't remember. Did we have a meeting after the election?
Yeah, December 2nd.
We
December.
canceled January, I know that.
Yeah.
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 So,
December 2nd.
yeah, we haven't, there was only like 7 out of all those results, if you'll recall what I said. Like we got like 20 responses after we handed out like 750 papers.
Wow.
So I'll
Yeah,
update
your
that and
work
send
product.
that to you. I can do that. It wasn't, yeah, like, I mean, no, there was a lot of time and paper handed out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I
And
mean.
we talked to a lot.
You worked hard then.
Well, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
no, and that's, I think we got 20 additional.
Well, I will
responses.
say,
How do we access the results, I guess, is the best way.
I can download them and send them out to you guys tomorrow.
Perfect.
Just got away from me probably.
Oh, very good. And you
Max,
bring,
will you remind me to do that?
I will try to remember tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely got more out of the school.
Yeah.
When we were at the school. Cause I think we met people where they were. And I think maybe on election day, people were just
They have things.
preoccupied.
And in a rush and, yeah, I mean, overall, I'd say half the people seem receptive.
And I think
Yeah.
Rebecca put it back up on Facebook and I think I got one response
Mhm.
in the last month or something like that.
Well, at least they've generally been positive. So. Well,
Yeah,
who's
I-
responded anyway?
Yeah. I mean, I think they are responsive. It's just, you're not getting the sample that, I honestly thought after election day, we'd get a lot of response. I was disappointed.
well, we will hope that as the naming process goes forward and as developments occur, we inspire more people to be interested, either both, you know, people get invested in something's actually happening. And you know, we're in a quiet administrative period this year or two. Yeah, we'll get more response.
I wonder if people just don't want to take surveys as much as we think that they would. And despite how easy they are. And if there's just another way to communicate potential ideas. So like could we come up with 3 very different drawings? Like one, say, more in your world, one more traditional recreational, one kind of mix.
Yeah.
And just put them up on 3 boards right here.
Mhm.
And then put those online, and you just have to choose, but 1, 2, 3. It's not binding. It's not, it's just tells you like, oh, most people are here, or most people are really split. Like the community really is split.
Well, one of the ways.
Just the
we could do it-
visual, you know, like,
And one of the ways
okay,
we
I
could
see.
do it is if we have it done before tax time,
I'll send it out.
I wouldn't send it out, but I would have it here so we could have it on the wall.
Uh-huh.
And then as people are being waited on and registering their cars and paying their taxes, we could say, hey, take a look over there, and maybe we could have some type of, which one would you pick?
Put stickies on it.
I don't
That
think
always
we have
drives me
people
3
take
very
pictures.
different ideas going though.
Well,
So,
I think what you'd have
but
to do is look at the survey results
Yeah.
and just see if one element maybe
Yeah.
was more pronounced,
I
and
can
just highlight that element as like a drawing,
I
you
can
know?
access it on my
we could
phone.
also prioritize what we build first or what we.
Yeah, you could also do it that way.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like a visual.
Yep.
3 or maybe 4 options,
Yep.
very easy and fun. People to be like, no, yes, you know, because everyone likes to swipe on their screens. I think this is just much easier nowadays.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
I have them right here.
On the Economic Development Committee, we're working hard on coming up with consistent signs that everybody can identify with and appreciate, and create this concept that Waldeboro is having in the coast. So so the word Waldeboro in the name might be good. Anything I was thinking about.
So,
Like Potomac River Park or Waldeboro River Park.
well, I think the name thing's pretty much done.
I don't want, yeah, I
Yeah.
just was throwing that out there, so I don't know.
There were 4 in the running, is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
so we're gonna have to.
Oh.
but let me.
Well, that could be on the wall too. Here's some names. Which do you like?
Yeah.
Check.
So, like, question number one was what types of recreational activities do you want? Number one was walking trails. Number two was picnic areas. Number three was playgrounds. What type of play area would you prefer? Nature play area was 57 and adventure playground was 55% and traditional was 41. And a splash pad was 38%. What amenities would you like to see in the child's play area? The number one thing was swings, seating for adults, then slides, then climbing structures. And 49% wanted water play features. And what type of sports facilities? Overwhelmingly 74% basketball courts, 48% tennis courts, 52% pickleball courts. How important is it to have shaded areas? The biggest one was, do you think the park should have a pavilion? 87% was yes, 13%
That sounds
no.
like a central feature.
What uses would you like to
All three
see the pavilion serve? 75% event space, 71% picnic area,
Wow.
Drinks.
59% performance stage, 51% outdoor classroom, and shelter 48%. What other types of activities and events and spaces would you like to have in the park? Overwhelmingly, 83% farmers market, 71% community festivals.
Pavilion.
Yeah.
And then 54% was a nature discovery area. And 52% public art.
Is the survey still up?
It's still up.
Okay.
Are there any specific activities or events you would like to see in the park that were not mentioned above? Plant markers with habitat for native bees and birds. Kite flying area. BMX bikes.
What's
So is it
that?
the same as a?
That's a bicycle,
Yeah.
like,
Like-
Like a pump park.
BMX is like,
Call it
yeah,
a
like
pump
jump.
But that would be the
Oh,
same
the
to you,
kind of,
okay.
all right.
Yeah.
like we
Okay.
have up at
Sorry.
Quarry.
Hmm.
Outdoor movie screening. Fireworks there for the 4th of July.
Yeah.
There were a couple pool, but a splash pad was also mentioned, which was already in there. A food truck festival, an outdoor amphitheater. But if you have the pavilion, there's things,
No, electric go-kart course?
nope, I didn't put my suggestion in. Although an RC park was one of the suggestions, like for the little RC cars, an area for them. And I can give you all the little written ones. There are some requests for a dog park, but that gets complicated.
Somebody on election day mentioned a fire pit to me.
Yeah,
That'd be cool. I mean, surprise.
we'll see.
Yeah. That's a good way to bring people together, but
It was, I think if it's a fire pit that is surrounded around an event, that could be a
Yes,
decent
I'm
idea.
thinking more like
But I
that.
think people just having fires could be a little problematic.
Right.
Agree.
How important was it that the park offers activities for children? 46% said extremely important, 30% very important, 18% somewhat important. How important is it that park offers activities for seniors? 34% very important, 24% extremely important, somewhat important. And most people who answered this, 28% live 5 to 10 miles away, 27% 3 to 5 miles, 1 to 3 miles, 24%, and less than a mile, 20%. So that was a really nice. So we got people from, that was the one thing that made me happy, is we seem to have gotten people from all over. But I'll print all those little suggestions out. And bear in mind, there are some that just, there's a few people who are, you're always going to get, when you ask for somebody's opinion, some things you that are a little soft,
Salty?
a little salty.
Seems like our design is spot on. I mean, outside of the BMX park and RC cars, everything else that got mentioned, even in the comments,
Yeah.
there's at least, if it's not in the design, there's space for it.
Or,
Yeah.
but thinking about what you've talked about too, it rises to the
But-
top, which I didn't realize.
But again, I think too, it's all about the cost in the
Right.
end. That's what it's gonna come down to. Is,
Right.
Mhm.
You
And
know,
staging it, over time.
Yeah.
what is the overall cost of what? You know?
Yeah, every opportunity has a benefit and a cost, and it's a
Mhm.
community process, that's for sure. Yeah. What were we saying, is there anything we're supposed to be doing with the naming process? Because I think Bob was talking briefly about the possibility of going back to the school to get them
We were,
re-engaged.
so what happened was that we were going to do this for the election, and then I don't know what happened with the participation, but the person I was working with didn't get back to us. So we could probably do it in the spring and actually have the kids vote.
But you missed what Susan just brought up, I think, when you came in a little bit late, but it was kind of a good suggestion, but that it's been seen in other parks that as you get closer to it opening, there's more of energy around and interest in naming. So we might, maybe it's a next fall or next spring, 2026 or something, rather than nailing something down. I don't know if it's important, but it's an interesting idea.
I guess the bigger question here is the process of generating support versus I don't know. Basically, you need people to want to agree to pay in their taxes for a sizable amount for this park, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so you can either say, well, we're just not in a climate that's going to fly anyway, so let's not even ask. I don't think we want to just give up. But my question then is, so how do you begin to create the desire for that people think it's more important than they previously thought, or are willing to do one phase of it over another? What's the kind of municipal process of a rollout of, do you really spend a year generating much clearer ideas of the park before putting it to a vote? And if so, how do you lay out that year, presentations, drawings, keeping it always very loose?
So I think that I thought the name was a really good way to start, because you can get the kids involved. And after you and I sat there and tabled at the school, there was
Yeah.
a lot of excitement about that. So if the kids get involved with the naming, that would be a fun step. But we're gonna have to actually have drawings and pretty drawings.
Yeah.
And an idea.
Mhm.
And I think if everybody goes back and looks at what they're doing in Rockport
Yeah.
with that, I mean, obviously they have a donor, but I think if we rolled out the process like they rolled it out,
Yeah.
it would be it would be very nice,
Right.
because they give you ideas. They could look like this, it could look like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone in the community? I know Barbara do some of it, but can do renderings and would volunteer to do
Well,
renderings?
I was planning on bringing something today, but it didn't happen. But as a start, because one of the things that Ruben did, which I thought was interesting, is he used AI recently to summarize our meetings and some of the main points of our meetings, which is kind of like the minutes. I've been meaning to actually compare them directly to the minutes and
Usually.
that thing. Anyway, we all kind of know what we want to do, right? So I was just going to do a very loose, and I wanted to bring you a sample of a schematic drawing of what this thing can look like, and then we can just, when you talk about different samples, we can actually take pieces of paper and put them instead of this piece, you put this piece of paper on the board, and this is how this section could look instead, without doing a whole second or third plan. So it's really use it as a cut and paste.
But it's
Kind
really,
of-
if, like I said, if guys take the time to look at Rockport, they have
Yeah.
where you can actually look up tabs, and it says playground ideas.
Mhm.
And it just looked and that's something that is doable.
Now,
Yeah.
is
Now,
that some,
Viewshed got to be a pretty expensive contract for pulling off the whole sequence of charretting and then design and then giving back to people what they thought they said.
Right.
But that's a process, it sounds like somebody's paying a landscape architect for.
Well,
renderings.
they're paying that, but I think it's a good, I think we can do it. We can mimic it. We may not be able to do everything because we don't have a donor like that.
Yeah. And those are leading to,
But I think if we
Construction
do some
drawings.
of those things, it's involving people and it's exciting and people get excited about it.
yeah.
But we have to travel. We have to go. The one thing that I have learned in the last year, and I think this is important, is we have to meet people where they are.
Mhm.
You know, we have to send out everybody on Marcus's list for rec. Come to this meeting and talk to us about this park, or,
Mhm.
you know, or maybe when he's having a baseball meeting, we come and say, hey, can you spend 15 minutes and just look at this, or what are your thoughts?
But don't we already think or understand that the trails, because of possible funds, is gonna happen first? Before,
Well, I guess I couldn't speak to that, but I think that's a low hanging fruit, you know?
It's low hanging fruit, but I will also tell you, sitting here, we hear about the amount of trails that exist in Waldoboro already.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
as much as important I think trails are, I think people want to see and I think trails are important, but at the same token, there is a lot of land trust trails.
Mhm.
There is trails at Quarry Hill. I just think we have to remember that it is low hanging fruit, and it's easy to get done first,
Mhm.
but
Was also number one on the survey, so, you know, I
it
think
it
that
was.
the location right near town at the end of a
Mhm.
sidewalk someday.
And I think the
We don't have
accessibility,
that.
I think
Yeah,
the
the
accessibility
accessibility.
piece is very highly attractive because it elevates our site way beyond the preserves that have, you know, non-accessible trails. Burke and Mill, beautiful places, Quarry, they're wonderful places, but no one who is truly challenged with ambulation is going to go there. We have an opportunity to provide that. It's pretty exceptional.
Side or whatever. I feel like that's a messaging thing, you know, yes, there's trails. But this would draw a different group, I think, than a lot of those trails.
I think when we're talking trails, what I would say is we also need to make sure we're thinking long term. Like I'm thinking some of the examples Susan's talked about. I'm thinking of the first that one rendition we were talking about with the company that Susan talked to us about. But they did have trails, but it went through all these areas that were more. So I'm thinking long term, if we're talking trails that go through that big open area, I'm always thinking of that big open area that's like on the lower part. That's going to be something someday. And I would hate to see that just turn into just this one trail path that goes right through the middle and we can't do anything else with it.
Well, that's, you're exactly right. And that's why we went to some lengths to create a perimeter accessible trail and not to disrupt that footprint in the middle. So
Right. But I'm
preserving it.
I'm just giving that
Yeah.
one spot as an example. I'm
Yeah.
saying that for the whole site, like we just need to keep long-term things in mind.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
still need to get to that site from the parking lot.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. And that's the big challenge that
Mhm.
should be addressed. I'm sorry, Susan, were you raising your hand?
Yeah, I don't know if this is the right time to talk more about the design, but I did have a meeting with Bean and Stock last week regarding one of my other projects. And they do free concept designs. And they do as part, and I don't know if that's gonna be ultimately what you do, or they also work with local landscape design together.
Mhm.
And they have that design, like 3 iterations, and they go back
Mhm.
each time to also the information you've already collected. They could create a design just based on that.
Oh.
Because that's so much information about what the community is looking for. And then people take that and, a basic concept design to generate support and interest. Like, I was just thinking that, a bigger event at the Waldo Theater where there's some presentation about parks and rec and benefit to community and play. And then what you were saying, Michael, when a big thing that I know they do in Charrettes, and you've probably all seen this, they put the features up and give people little stickies from
Right.
like yard sales and have people, but it looks like they also did that on the website, which would be incredible. I don't know if we have the capacity to do that, but I do think that would be amazing to get.
Yeah, Lesher Group, the view shed up at Rockport, they did that. They gave people, and they scaled it right. So you couldn't pretend that I'm gonna have 7 basketball courts here where there's only room for 3. You know, they've scaled each of the little things that you could arrange.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very interesting, very detailed approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of response they got in terms of numbers of people doing that, or
Max can find out for us. I can find out.
that's okay? I'm just curious.
I think Marcus was gonna raise his own.
I apologize, I have to leave, but I just wanted to mention something on the name, is that naming it at the end, you said could like build excitement once we start getting progress going. I think it might be important for us to name it ahead of time, and that way when we're trying to build excitement now, we're calling it by something instead of just a proposed park. Because we're gonna have to build excitement now in
Yeah.
order to be able to fund it, whereas some of the other towns can
Yep.
build it and then create the excitement. We don't have that luxury, I don't think. But I apologize, I have to go, and I'll see you guys next month.
Good
Thanks for
comment.
coming. Yeah.
See you, Monica.
See you. Pleasure.
And forgive me if this has
Bless
already been covered, but will there be some grant writing to offset the cost?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
lots of
Definitely.
grant writing to.
That would be
I would
ideal.
assume so.
That would be ideal.
That's our Max's job.
Yeah.
And
write
probably
grants?
soliciting funds from the
Do you write
community as
grants?
well.
I contribute the part that is related to my work. So like, there are sections of a grant that I don't have the expertise for, but the one thing I do have is the language surrounding the benefits of a naturalized park and nature connection and all of the health and well-being benefits. So I could share large chunks of language surrounding the need. So I can contribute to it for sure.
Would be helpful.
Do we actually understand what this year could look like with respect to the coming up with site planning? I mean, coming up with this charrette process, or someone mentioned the Waldo Theater, having an event at the Waldo Theater.
And is the group willing to pursue that with Bean and Stock or?
Yeah, what's the catch?
Did we-
To do
Then,
a free render?
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for them. They, you know, because
I can
it's
get
not
more
really-
information. What, I forget where we left it, because we did they
gave
ever
us-
have a meeting with them?
No,
No,
no.
I think
But
the
a
A small
coordination
part of
problem.
us had,
But if they worked with
I mean-
Barbara, if they're willing to do something free and we don't have a commitment,
it is, well, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, it was expensive.
yeah.
And a lot of it is the stuff that's really cool looking has to come from away.
Not always.
Not always, but
Yeah,
and we talked to her about that, about it being local, like, cause I was like, locally, we have all this forest.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, yes, but there's always that but part. You know, they would have to know what it is we have and what they want to do. So it's beautiful stuff, but is it cost prohibitive? They'd have to come here, I think, and figure out what we have to utilize.
and
And I think I mean, there's stuff on there that's absolutely gorgeous.
But they
Um,
wouldn't just be paid by selling a product, you know, the actual play pieces themselves, we did need to get paid before that.
Right, and then
for
they
their time and
craft the stuff,
expertise.
they can craft it on site, it's just what do we have?
But
And
is it
they-
worth just doing the concept? Like I could picture them working with you. They may have these grand, beautiful things, but we'd say we're gonna use some pine trees and stumps.
But
and-
that might not be appropriate, it depends,
You
they
don't
they
think they'd
have
be
to look
willing?
at, no, they would have to come, that was what I took away.
Mm.
Max, correct me if I'm wrong, that, because I got excited, because I was like, what we see isn't always what we're gonna have available here,
Mhm.
and if you have to ship it, there's gonna be more to that cost.
So, will you need to do an RFP to request them for?
Anytime we do anything that is gonna require somebody to be paid, we're gonna have to RFP it.
Right.
But I'm just talking about the free consultation of a concept. We don't have to worry about what it's
Yeah,
going
they
to be
could-
in the
they-
end, but to have them, just from some information for you to draw
Yeah.
from.
Oh, they-
And don't worry about you know, if they're
They're
gonna
willing
Yeah,
to
but I
do that?
agree with Barbara. I don't wanna,
waste, if you
Keep
feel like
having
it's a
them do
waste
free
of time. then-
I mean, it's nice to keep getting free stuff, but.
yes, I like free stuff,
Yeah,
but
but they can, I mean, they've done so many in so many different places. They can pull and,
They can
and
pull.
quickly plop some
it's
things.
gorgeous stuff.
An
It
image,
could be, it's exciting to see what they do.
Yeah, I think it would give us ideas.
And
But I don't think for free, they're gonna fly out here, take a
No.
look.
no,
But we've already sent them site
Yeah.
plans and
Have we sent them?
Right?
all kinds of things.
We sent them drone photos of the plots of the area? Do they have
Yeah.
Site
Oh,
plan.
I
The
can,
survey, yeah.
I can follow up.
No drones.
no aerial view of what we're looking
Well,
at?
aerial view, but no drones.
Okay, but.
Yeah, maybe Susan, if you could follow up with them
Yeah.
and basically say sort of where we are, you know, as a
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
To send the signal of, well, of course, we would love something like this. And we know that they're an organization that wants to promote themselves and good, healthy play. And so they do get something out of it, you know, and that we have a lot of data and the site plan. So it's an easy, arguably easy lift for them. So I would push that, but then we should also think about, is there anyone else in the community beyond you
Mhm.
who could help do renderings? Otherwise, how are we going to put together drawings to present?
Right.
Who's going to do that?
And my understanding is, so, you know, they have, it's big wood, right? Giant
Big,
trees
huge.
that they're using.
It's wonderful.
My understanding is they have only certain types of wood that they will use, but it can be sourced locally. They come and install it because they've been doing this for 30 years,
Mhm.
and their installation process means that it's ASTM
Right.
and National Playground Safety, you know, whatever.
Just the accreditation.
Accreditation.
Certified.
And then the park falls under their insurance as well.
Oh,
For what?
For liability?
Yes, yes.
for the features that they install,
Yes,
right?
for the
yeah.
features they install.
Versus,
Yeah.
you know, somebody designing it separate, well,
Mhm.
yeah, it's because they really, even though it's natural wood,
Mhm.
they look at it like a traditional playground installation that is then insured because they've been doing this for so long and have such an expertise in
And
it.
then she also explained there was a way to do things, to gather things, and then they could plot it as they're building it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
like the stepping stones and stuff.
Yeah,
Anyway, it was really interesting.
Mhm.
You know, definitely it's definitely, if we can get them in here, it would be great.
And if we aren't able to get a free service out of these folks, what's our path forward to find funding and then request landscape architectural services? How does that happen?
Well, you have to either get it put into the budget or we have to get a grant for it.
Right. So are there grant sources for design and development at the front end rather than construction of existing designs?
I think I think there's one going on. I have to look into one that's available right now. And we looked at trying to have the Libra Foundation do one. And that didn't work, unfortunately. But I think their next application, because it was just competitive time, so we could probably apply again in a month or so.
What's their interest, what's their focus, that foundation on?
It's very broad, just.
Well, why don't we let Max take some time and find some grants? And if you have any grant funding ideas, why don't you give it to Max?
And I think
Yes.
it's not because I asked Rob from Pine Tree to give an idea for landscape architects, and he worked with one group. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but I believe they only needed 8,000 for everything I've been talking about, up to 8,000.
To do a initial design drawing?
Everything for the whole.
Because if we apply for the land,
Water conservation.
we have to have an actual landscape architect do that work.
That was highly recommended.
Yes.
Is it possible this, in the meantime, or think about just setting up a fund online that anyone can contribute to? I mean, to start that too, just apart from the government grants, especially what's going on with the government grants at the moment. But to have, like, I know someone there's donor advised funds now that Maine Community Foundation has, and I don't know if recreation is a category, but you know, people, if you let them know about projects, donors can put money into it. So I'm just wondering if it's worth setting up something along those lines and what
Like
that would look.
GoFundMe or something?
What?
GoFundMe?
Well, not GoFund, an actual Waldeboro Park Fund.
Right.
And you can contribute, like the way conservation works. You have a piece of land some land trust trying to protect, and they have a fund, and private individuals contribute. I'm guessing there would be some interest in this.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so, but I think that has to come with at least the website,
Yeah,
you know, like what Rockport did, even if it's a very
I think I think we
version
need,
of, you know, that, you know.
yeah, I think we need,
We put the survey results.
you need the survey
Public.
results, you need the drawings, you need something to come in, because
yeah, if we get
Yeah.
this stage done.
I think
then-
that we can explore funding mechanisms then too, and I think people are more apt to give if they know we have grant funding. People don't want to give unless they know there's support already for it.
But the town can host that?
We
It's
could,
not a problem with,
we could host, we can give a page off of our website.
Right.
no, I mean host a
Like a
fund that
fiscal aid
people
dinner.
that
We can
just
host a
donate
fund.
to.
Yeah, we
Okay,
have like our emergency fund. It might be better if it's done by concerned citizens of Waldeboro for a park.
Mhm.
People might be more apt to give it. I don't know.
Well,
Like
I'm
the
just-
people who are raising money for the community center, was that in a town account or was that a separate?
That was in a town account when we did the original community center.
I mean,
But
just-
there was a group of,
There-
it wasn't like the town was fundraising, it was a group.
It was
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
different.
well, I'm just thinking hypothetically, this is grasping, but someone says, I got 20,000, and then you received a check in the mail tomorrow, 20,000 bucks. I'd love it to go towards the park.
Mhm.
Can you set up a?
We can have a trust put up, we can
Just
set up a
set-
trust for
okay.
that, yes.
Because I think as the word gets out, we might hopefully have that happening on occasion.
I mean, if you want to give a check for 20,000, I can hold on to it until.
Okay.
So who's gonna build the webpage?
Who knows how to build a webpage?
Question. So if you decide what you want it to look like, we can put that webpage in effect on our website. But somebody's got to, it's just like we did with the EDC, you got to tell me what you want it to look like.
So we need someone who's good at designing.
That woman, who did this Waldeboro signs, does she do websites? Cindy. Cindy.
Cindy Butler.
No relation.
No relation.
I don't think she does websites, but
Could we reach to the schools? A high school student?
Humane.
so
So
here's the issue is I just need somebody to show us what they want it to look like.
Mm.
We're limited on what we
Oh.
can't make it have all these bells and whistles probably. But it's a good start.
It's a start,
If
yeah.
you want an actual website that's going to be extremely interactive, then we might need something different.
yeah, but if people are just,
But I can't let like a high school student into
Yeah.
our
Oh, yeah.
website.
Yeah.
I think like the type of format is kind of what we're talking
Yeah.
about, where it's
Just
paragraph
visually
picture,
appealing.
paragraph picture.
Yeah,
or-
that's what I would need. Like,
Yeah.
tell me what you want it to say. I mean,
Okay, can we decide right now on the basic elements?
sure.
So survey results, right?
Mhm.
And visualizations of elements and or visualization of overall design.
Mhm.
And that the overall design could be broken up into 1, 2, or 3 versions. I think that's, and a description,
Yeah, a couple sentences.
couple sentences.
Just bear in mind, we are going into budget season and I'm the person who does the
Well, that's why I'm
website.
asking you, maybe we should find someone in the community to build this website.
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
I was thinking about asking Amanda with Medomic Design if she would do it.
And I just want to caution everybody too, if it's something that the town is putting out, we need to have control over the website. So it can't, people just can't put on there it has to be approved and all of that. So just,
Right.
I hate to add layers of bureaucracy, but we need to,
Well, it makes sense for it to be part of the town's site.
but we can also
Right, but-
link to it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not a
yeah.
big deal. If
you
somebody
approve the
creates it,
content,
right, then we can link it to our
Your
site.
time issue is just building the site.
Yeah, right,
And
So,
then you can approve it and hopefully it's just a link.
right. And then it's just a link. You can come on our website and it goes right over to a different one, but I would not use that. if you're on our website, then we can take electronic payments. There's certain things we can do that if
Mhm,
you wanted
mhm,
that we
mhm.
might not be able to do with a private.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good point.
Can I raise one more thing that I heard from someone who was at select board meeting or was watching it? That the Waldeboro Food Pantry is thinking,
Well, I think that's what Max wanted to discuss today.
yeah, I was wondering, because that seems like a very big topic to talk about in terms of, I mean, my gut reaction is, this sounds like really good synergy here, but you know, that would change that plan already that we've got, you know, where would it go on that, on the site? So what's
So,
happening with that?
and Alec is here as well, so you could jump in when I'm very off track. So this has just been an idea that's been floated by the food pantry. They're looking for a space because they're, I don't know who's gone into their building recently, but it is a bit packed and they expect a lot of growth happening over the next couple of years. So they would like to try and think forward to the next food pantry location. And it seemed like a nice little, as you say, some nice synergy there. We'd have a park with 100 so parking spaces. They'd have a building that could probably get 100+ people in an average day. Or Tuesday, I should say, because I forgot that. And so it's just putting it out there and just seeing, would there be a way of making this work?
And as they explained at the select board meeting, they are a ways away. This isn't something that's going to happen next year.
Actually not.
What was that?
The food pantry will be voting on our interest in the Sylvania site. In probably the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so I'm just going by
What you know.
what we know, what we were told last Tuesday. So things could have
Right.
changed since last Tuesday, but like they haven't even gotten to the point, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what was represented to the board last Tuesday was that it's a building between 3,000 and 5,000 square
Yeah.
feet. They're not sure exactly what the future looks like. They'd like to have like a shopping experience instead of the drive up. They did express, you know, what could we do together? What kind of synergy would there be? And it was a great conversation with the representatives of the food pantry, but they didn't seem to like it's not going to be built because they have to do fundraising. There's all kinds of things they have to do. I just didn't want you to think it would happen next
No,
week
of course not.
or
But
this
just
year.
the idea of it happening and then, you know, that gets tied into the concept plan.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, what,
We've structured a strategy program where we're looking at our because we're at a stage of development that's we're maxed where we are and we need to take the next step, particularly since what's happening. And I'm not speaking for the board, I'm speaking on this is my perception. And so then the next step is the 3-year, 1 to 3 year interim thing, and then hopefully by the 5th year, 4 to 5 year, we'll have a building somewhere. And that will be determined whether we'd like to have that to see if that might be a good fit here, Sylvania or elsewhere. The free land is attractive when you would bypass about $200,000-300,000.
so are you voting on whether, what are you gonna vote on?
I don't know. The motion will be created, but it will be we go forward or we don't.
Oh, with a new place buildings.
Well, it's simply whether we talk or not, and then you have to tell us what we could.
I see.
So yeah, there's a lot of chicken and the egg.
Well,
Who has to make a commitment, whatnot, like
Yeah.
that. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds because we have
No.
6 o'clock is the Waldeboro Day thing, right?
The last thing I want to say
Yes.
is that we simply want to put the thing out there and start a dialogue.
Right.
Right, so can you summarize where this would go? Would this go where the Hoff's house is?
So 2 main spots have been pitched. The first would be back here. Sorry, Rebecca, and anyone who's going to be watching later that I don't have this on screen share. But along the northern boundary at a straight shot back here where it
That's the
starts.
pavilion location.
Hmm?
That's the per draft pavilion location.
Right.
Yes.
The idea for that
A
was
location.
just when it was playground slash pavilion, because that could probably just be moved elsewhere onto the property. That was just suggested there because it would be in the very far back, so it's not immediately up front, so everyone sees it on at the road. But it's also back here with all the parking. So it seemed to make a bit of sense there. And because it's outside the restricted area, you could get the sewer and water to go along the northern boundary as well, so that then there could be offices there for the staff members or bathrooms if we wanted to have it there. So that was an idea. The alternative spot, and it actually came up very recent, was the Hofstad's house, because
Yep.
It's
nothing's
gonna be destroyed.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd still have to extend the sewer and water a bit, and they don't have the parking there. But it also gets rid of being closely associated to when they're going out for fundraising, not saying we want to be located at the former Sylvania site. Instead, it would be we'd be located at the former Hofstad's house, which
Interesting.
The
Eric-
downside to that is though, that
Less
then
parking.
there's not parking there. So there's gonna be infrastructure that then
Has
has
to be
to
built
be
out.
built out.
Mm.
Whereas with the,
but there would be some fill brought in. But as we
Right.
said, they'd have to test. Janet?
I mean, my just gut reaction looking at that map is why not the southeast corner? I mean, that might affect
Down
the
here?
courts. Yeah, because the
That's the
parking,
restricted area.
That's what you can.
oh, I thought so you can't put this there.
The
Okay.
restricted area is
The
right around
building
here.
elevation.
Oh, straight.
you could put the
Restrict-
pavilion on
I thought you
On the
could put.
restricted area.
on the restricted
Yes,
area.
yes.
No.
Why?
Okay.
What?
What's the difference between an enclosed building versus the pavilion?
Do we know that for sure from DEP?
Yeah, you could have the pavilion, like, so if you had on where the courts were, you could
Yep.
put the pavilion on that foundation.
But why couldn't you build it's a slab building anyway for this,
Cause that's
Market.
that's the rule.
And it
but
would,
we're not
and it would
digging.
face.
We would be building on top of it.
But because they want it outside, if you're going to dig, I understand.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't want it on top of the existing foundation. It
And I
has
think
to
you'll
go.
get the same negative stigma that I'm talking about.
Right.
where it Doesn't matter if
That's
it's in
an
this
interesting point.
very northern part or close
Right.
to the road, kind of like where you were talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, you're then telling people we want to put the food pantry on the former Sylvania.
Yeah, that's a
site.
cultural point you're making.
Yeah.
So-
there is-
So,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry, I'm just pointing out the two spots. I was
And-
asked about that. I didn't want to.
And I will also tell you that I think if the food pantry, wherever it is on that site, it's wonderful because
Yeah.
there's many reasons you could be there. And sometimes people who are taking services from any type of social service agency kind of want to blend in. They don't want to be
Right.
out front. You know, that was one of the things when we were having the pantry here during COVID, where people were a little hesitant about driving up
Their
just
neighbor
because it
thing,
was
then
such
I
an
would-
open
Yeah.
out in
Yeah.
the public area.
So the other thing is that the pavilion piece could be part of this building, you
Yeah.
know, the back end with the open
Well,
three
I mean,
sides.
you could build the whole idea of the park around this in a way that's about agriculture and farmers markets and growth
Yeah.
in a broad perspective and the
Health.
history of the town and health. Like this could be this could bring it all together. So I would say the message to the food pantry would be that the committee, it would be helpful for the committee because we're in this stage of how do we present
What's the
ideas
concept?
of the park. How serious is the food pantry being on this site? Not
We'll
necessarily.
tell you in 2 weeks. of February.
Okay, right. Not necessarily it has to go here or there, but if you're really serious, then we should be working with you this year in coming up with these
An idea.
site plans and ideas so that it's presented as a cohesive whole. Then then the people who want to give to the food pantry might also give money to help with the park too. Donation wise, you know, if you kind of,
Or they could
connect
go
pieces.
in on.
so I think
pad
it's
money or
about.
Something.
Dan Visser and I spent 3 months and we have canvassed the pantries around. We've looked at the buildings here that are gonna be vacant for the main health. We've looked at Walters, we've gone all around, we've done this canvassing. And we have a fairly good understanding of the type of building we need, the size, and what's gonna be in it. The AIO, we're gonna follow in their slipstream.
What's
and
AIO
they-
mean? AIO?
Oh, it's the, it's the food
In
in
Rockland.
Rockland, and it
Right.
is the, interfaith, something interfaith.
Oh.
for something like that, I guess, but,
Right.
they've had a miraculous,
Yeah, but you know,
building.
There have to be some serious site reconnaissance to figure out what constructability.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a really serious construction related questions, because they will completely impact your budgeting of your. But this is obviously a process that goes forward with good faith. But with specifics yet to be determined. Fox's house location feels like the right idea. Boy, the topography is highly problematic with respect to the parking and entrances.
Mhm.
Yeah, highway entrance and parking, tough one, real
But-
tough.
The other reason for those two spots that I've mentioned, the one in the far north boundary and then the one that's over at the Hoff's house, is if we're working in phases, both of those spots would be a good spot where as the food pantry and the town are going, maybe they're on different wavelengths. Either of those spots could be done at a later time, so let's say we decide that the food pantry does want to do it now, so we decide, okay, fine, this. You leave that to the food pantry, and then 2 years later, they say, we'll change our mind, we're gonna find a different spot. It's still good and
No
can
harm
still be
done,
turned
no
into
harm
There's
the,
no harm done, exactly.
turn into the open space pavilion, same thing with the house's house. I don't think either of them have a big thing going on, whereas the footprints and the parking area, I think we have an idea that something's going there right now, so,
But it also gives us, I mean, the parking is important,
right.
and then it would have a really good use.
Yeah, no, I
It's
think
not
it's a
just
great
there.
idea, but it has a big impact.
Panels on the roof.
Yeah. Don't talk too much about it, so.
No, it was,
We were told we could publicly speak about it, which is why, yes, we were
Oh,
told,
okay, so
we were told, finally, we got the go ahead that we could we asked and that we could bring it to you guys and we could publicly speak about it.
Here as a food pantry representative.
Right.
You know, I mean,
No, we were told by the
Okay.
representatives that attended the meeting that we could publicly discuss this.
So.
Hence why Max was excited.
We knew we had to discuss it publicly because we meet publicly.
Yeah, well, I heard about it because someone was at a public meeting.
Exactly.
So,
well, and Janet asked, so.
yeah, I asked, so
Yeah.
blame me.
We're good.
No, we were perfectly, that was one of Max's things he wanted to talk to you guys about.
Well, I was kind of surprised it wasn't on the agenda after I heard about it, because this is kind
Well,
of. a big
Max,
thing.
we had a little,
I had no idea what, the last week has been very,
it's
very
been a
Okay,
interesting.
interesting
I
week.
think
for
Max
Max.
deferred properly.
what?
I think Max deferred properly.
Yeah, okay, good.
All right,
Yes, Bob.
well,
I just want to say that what Michael has talked about, tying the food pantry into the farm to table thing, the farmer's market.
Yes,
I'm not saying it's a solution or the cat's meow, but there's a nexus there that we really need to talk about and consider seriously, and you need to as well.
And I think if you bring in somebody like the food pantry, and what we said to the food pantry too, is partners are great. If you look at when you partner, like how we partnered with Maine Health up at Depot Street, we got $1 million in CDS funding from that. Partners are amazing. And if there was a way we could partner with the food pantry and we can partner, Maine Health might have another thing that they want to put there that's more focused on something like,
Rehabilitation, exercise.
there's a lot of ways we can partner. We have a lot of partners out there. It's just finding the right fit for everybody to be in sharing space, whether it be outside space, inside space.
That's great.
But that's what builds communities, is good partnerships.
Yeah, this
Is it-
feels,
is it possible in the current year that we could, a little bit ad hoc maybe, but could we pull off a farmer's market at that site this year? Some scheduled events
I
for
don't know.
I think we'd
local
have to talk
growers?
with the people
You
who
need to
actually-
have somebody really inspired managing the farmers
and also
market.
it's just like, you don't want people that don't want to bring their kids there because it was Sylvania, somehow, until it looks a little better. I would
So,
say.
yeah, I think I would agree with what Barbara's saying, is just, we did farmers markets here for a couple of years, then it went down to
Yes.
So
yes, we did.
Lakens, and then there was one that came, and then they took it from Lakens and brought it back up here. it does need somebody who's
Focus.
really committed to it, and they hadn't found that secret quite yet. I think once the park is up and functioning, it will be phenomenal, because
There'll be so
the
many.
shelter, you don't have to bring your own shelter, you can
Right.
just come and set up and,
And a lot of people will be. looking
yeah.
for it.
And I think, like I said, I think the pavilion is something everybody was excited about, so.
Yeah, okay, I see that, I see that. Well, there certainly is a lot of, on the horizon. Question is, how can we help you right now, moving forward to the web page? Seems to me that's the largest single immediate objective that can be accomplished over the next.
Well, I
3
think
months.
that I can,
We can also use a lot of generic images.
I mean, right now, I
Lay
could probably
thoughts.
do something that's very generic, just to get people started, and then maybe we can find somebody who might be willing to do
Yeah,
it.
or I mean, you're gonna send the survey results out. to
I'm gonna send them
everyone
out
again.
tomorrow.
So
I will do that
um,
tomorrow, I promise.
I can
haven't-
take a look at them and with conversation with Barbara,
Mhm.
and we can just maybe start pulling out some elements that could be drawn up.
Mhm. Yep.
And we can then bring it back and think about who could render those.
Even with the trails, because
Yeah,
like when we met
it's
with,
huge.
you weren't, I don't think you were at that meeting with Bean and stuff,
No, yeah.
but they have areas along these trails that are play areas,
Mhm.
so that they have a bench, but they might have 5 stones,
Mhm.
5
Yeah.
big boulders.
Yeah.
That are age appropriate. So like there could be little areas like that along the trail that are easily done
And not expensive.
and not expensive, where there's boulders
Mhm.
and, you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot that can be done.
And you're gonna check with them.
Yeah,
Just to
I
see
will
if
follow
they
up
could
with-
play a role. Yeah, okay.
E-factor.
And, do you all know about the Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program through the National Park Service?
I've heard of it.
I'm actually working with them on a different project, and it was a relatively simple application process. It's, they don't provide money, but you get a project manager and a landscape architect.
Oh, wow.
So,
The name of that again, please?
it's RTCA, it's Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program of the National Park Service.
Okay.
And they're, they cover from Maine to Virginia. The landscape architect is in New Hampshire. And I know him because I'm working on another project with him. In this project, usually they have a year to work with you, and the application process was in the spring. The application isn't long, but then we would have a landscape architect.
Yep.
Gosh.
And it's
Yeah.
directly related to the mission here.
Oh,
Totally.
Okay.
RTCA supports locally led conservation and outdoor recreation projects across the United States. They assist communities and public land managers in developing or restoring parks, conservation areas, rivers, and wildlife habitats, as well as creating outdoor recreation opportunities and programs that engage future generations in the outdoors. That is a bullseye.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
we could
Perfect.
definitely apply for that,
Yeah.
if it's still in existence.
It is. Yep. Because I'm currently working with the team.
So next spring though is their grant cycle?
No,
Or
it's
this
right
spring?
now.
Oh.
So the
And then-
election date is.
I can find out. I can follow up. Ours got, when we applied, they were in the process of hiring a new landscape architect, so we didn't get their services until September, but it should have started in June. So it's very short, like if we got this, we would have a
That's-
landscape architect and weekly meetings with a project manager by June.
Sounds nice.
What are you doing tomorrow, Max?
All right, I-
Or I
Great.
bet you Susan
Let
might
us know.
take a stab at that, you know? It doesn't have to be Max for this type of thing.
And actually, what I remember is that the director of this program invited us to a Zoom meeting to just pitch our idea first before we filled out the application, which is not nearly as extensive as a grant. But she wanted us to pitch it first to get a sense of if it would be approved even before we went through the hours, and not many hours, honestly,
Mhm.
to fill out the application. And honestly, I can't see that this project would not
Mhm.
be accepted unless they just have so many other
It sure
great
feels like it.
applications in the same year.
And are there, just a wet blanket here, but are there issues, the funds aren't frozen or anything at the moment?
Well,
Oh,
who knows?
yeah.
We have
mean,
to
it's-
just plow ahead.
Yep, just
I
move
feel like it's
forward
worth
as
just
if.
go for it
Just-
right now, just in
for it.
case, yeah.
And there, I mean, it's a phenomenal group of people. I can't speak highly enough of the work that I've been doing with them over the past year.
Great.
Well, you just
Right.
landed on 2 feet just now. That's wonderful. I mean,
Yeah.
that's within the.
You knocked it out of the park.
Can we ask Susan to just take that, set up a pitch or whatever?
I can reach out, the coordinator, her name is Helen Mann. I can reach out to her and ask her if we can do a similar pitch where she meets with a few members of the committee and we explain the project, or perhaps we even send the history and the timeline that was, and the mission statement, send some supporting materials and see if she wants us to go directly for the application or,
Yeah, I would find out.
yeah,
And
I'll-
record sites aren't an issue. I mean, they'll.
what's that?
Record
What we'd
sites.
have to find out.
Yeah, okay. But you know, it's not just a nice piece of land that doesn't have some issues. So
Right, well, they have the word, I mean,
restoration. so-
restoration, so,
Okay.
Well, they don't appear to have any projects in Maine currently, so.
Well,
it's
they need
to
one.
their benefit, right? Which is a good thing.
Great.
Yeah, we like that. How inspiring that is.
That's great.
Is there a master list of all these different types of things that you just brought forth, Susan? Because if you weren't here, we would have no idea.
I know.
Seriously.
Good
There's
point.
no master list. There's no master. I've never seen him. I wish there was.
no,
But I mean, it's just, it's
Of possible grants.
a possible grants. I mean,
Yeah.
there's money all over the place.
Well,
and
there is money all over the place,
But,
but one is you have to qualify for it.
yeah,
A lot of times government doesn't qualify, but nonprofits do. So then you have to have a partner. So there's plenty of some, well, people say there's plenty of money, but it's still hard to get. But yes, you don't always know
Like
stuff
we've
like
never
that.
heard, yeah.
And it's all about advertisement and who knows what, like, this is probably all over, you said National Parks Service?
yeah, it's the National Park Service.
Mhm.
And
But-
we're just, I mean, maybe they do it across the whole country, but
Oh, yeah.
we're in the region from Maine to Virginia
Right.
for RTCA.
Meanwhile, Maine, I think I can go on and they'll have like a page dedicated showing, every single grant they have in different departments. But I don't know if there's a similar thing where like the federal government has a list of every single grant. Well, grants.gov, but I have to keep refreshing that every week if I want to.
Yeah.
And I don't.
well, understandable.
the
You know,
deadline
spend so much
for
time
this
with
was-
Yeah, find out,
Yeah.
because we don't know.
We're with, if it's consistent with when I applied 2 years ago, we're right in there right now.
Mhm.
I think we had to have it in, if I remember, by March 31st.
This
And
has to
then-
be an agenda on the next select board
Yes.
meeting if we decide to go forward with it.
Yes,
Julie's saying yes.
We have to get approval to do this.
Select board. needs
every
to-
grant, because if there's a match or something, every grant needs to be.
Okay.
And I believe somebody's gonna have to sign off on it, and if I sign it, the select board has to authorize me to sign it. Not they would never say no. It's
Mhm.
just a formality to have to go through.
Susan, could you be at that meeting on the 11th of this month?
Yeah.
Or,
If you-
Well,
I don't even think we need her.
Assuming
Let's,
it's available.
let's figure it out and
Okay.
I don't think she has to come. I think if Max or I stand up and say, we're applying for this grant, they're gonna say,
Yeah.
apply.
And I'll share this link
That way you don't have to.
with
come to it.
everyone,
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be
but
great.
you can just put RTCA,
RTCA.
National Park Service, and
Yeah.
find it.
Wonderful.
And then they have examples of other projects that they've done.
I think there's a busy February,
Yeah.
if I'm mistaken.
That'd be a hellish.
We know what you get for.
Oh, February is never a board month.
She's got her budget.
We have our
Budget
budget. We have our budget. It's not boring.
Well, is there any other, for the good of the order, is there any other business that, this was a new item for us to explore, and it was very productive.
Oh, yeah.
Very encouraging for the year. Is there any other item people want to mention? Story, vignette, something that's helpful?
But it's actually the exciting.
Yeah.
That is a bit
Feels
exciting.
it, feels it. If you are all prepared, in a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
Okay. Barbara, Michael?
I'm Janet.
Sorry. I apologize.